Welcome to this lecture on Adobe Illustrator by Eduonix Technologies. In this lecture, we're going to be going into the effects panel and just looking at the basic effects. And I'm starting off from the last tutorial. I have a bunch of shapes created. I'm going to group all these together, or at least these bottom two. By highlighting them with the white tool, drawing a box around them. You can also use the lasso, shortcut key Q, draw a box around them. So I press Ctrl G when they're all selected to make a group. Now, when we apply an effect to a group, this is the first thing you should know, that if we ungroup that, it loses the effect. And we have to have the whole group selected to change the effect in the appearance panel. So, I'm going to start off by dragging the appearance panel on top of my layers. And I'm just going to make this custom panel as I go. I'm going to drop down this other one. So, let's start by adding one of the most common effects, something that you might get with a button or you might get with some type. And that's effect. Everything is going to be going up to effect. So, and another way to get to it is by going to this button right here. And from now on, just because it's closer to what I'm doing, I'm going to hit this button. It's add new effect. All the effects will pop up down here. And I'm having some double click issues, but you just click on it and go down to stylize and down to drop shadow. Hit preview and you'll instantly see the drop shadow. Now X offset is the distance left to right, and Y offset is the distance up and down. So if I set this to 2 and this to 2, let's just say -7. It'll go up by the same amount, and it'll be only right by 2 pixels. So setting it to positive values of X drags it in this direction, whereas setting it to positive values of Y drags it in this direction. And you can set it to negative values of X to go this direction, negative values of Y to go this direction. That being said, a nice common one is to have these equal, have it going down and to the right. And I don't like the preset opacity. I think it's too dark. So I'm going to set that to 55. Hit OK. Another common thing is to have the drop shadow on type. Make this white really quick. Now you can typically use the eyedropper tool, the shortcut key I, and copy a shadow, but since this isn't grouped, you're not going to get that shadow. Even if you group it, since there's only one thing, you won't get it. Typically you would. But all you have to do is go up to effects. Now this is true with all effects. If you go to the same effect, you're going to get what you just did. In this case, we don't want that. So let's take a look at what blur does. If I set this to 1 pixel, it makes the blur much less. 0 would make it exactly the same, and that actually looks pretty cool, some things. Then we would just set this to 1 pixel, and you can set these to half too. But I don't need to, it's so close. So I'm going to actually set this to 1, 1, 1 all around to get a nice, really close blur. how you'd remove an effect is by clicking whatever you have. If it's an effect on a group, click the whole group. You'll see your effects in the appearance panel. You can edit it, of course, by double-clicking on the whole thing, or clicking on the little, looks like a hyperlink right here. You can get rid of it by pressing clear appearance. You can create a new one by hitting duplicate, and you can throw it away. That's essentially how that works, though. Now with these two layers, you see group and contents. That means this is what it's applied to, essentially. There's pretty much always going to be a contents layer. As you can see, there's no effect here, and it's depending on what you click on, of course. So, that being said, if you double click on contents, you'll get what the content. Now you can select whatever you want and put the effect on whatever it is you like. I like to stick with the most basic item as a rule, generally, because it keeps it simple. So let's take a look at some of the other effects. Draw a few squares. Squares are my default. I'm going to pick some other ones. Do some different colors. Something to note is that, as you notice in the appearance, I have all these things selected. Now I have it, I'm pretty sure it's default. If I delete this and I draw a new shape, it'll have the same appearance. And there's a lot of things that can be an appearance. It's not just effects. But we're going to be focusing on effects here. But I just want you to know stroke, fill, it's all part of appearance. We do have a video on appearance later on. So right now, just stick with it and just learn the effects in these videos. We'll learn more about appearance later. I'm going to stop focusing on that so much. So go up to Window and let's take a look at some new effects. We're going to apply them to each one of these. And I need a stroke on one of them. Because I want you to see what happens to everything. And also, a good thing to keep in mind is when you select an object, you can collapse, fill, and stroke. It's kind of confusing. But you would select just the path, the whole object, should I say, and go down here and apply your effect. And whatever effect you apply, just drop shadow, and you apply another effect. It's going to go after that. Of course, you can move these around too, once you have more than one. So let's apply another effect. So go up to Effects, and go down to SVG Filters. Apply SVG Filter. I'm using these a lot. These basically apply raster filters, which mean pixel, like Photoshop kind of filters. You have a lot of options. You can actually get more, make more. But let's select Pixel Play for now. Okay. It says it can't be previewed correctly, but that's just a extraneous warning. Now, if I drag Pixel Play before the drop shadow, it's going to process the drop shadow after it's processed Pixel Play. But since you can't really tell what it's doing because it's a square, so let's make it a diamond, and you can see the pixels there. The square you wouldn't be able to tell. Anyway, since it's before the drop shadow, it's not pixelating the drop shadow, but if I drag this to after the drop shadow, then it pixelates the drop shadow, and that's how the order of filters works. So you'll use SVG filters a lot, and let's show you some more that you use a lot. Once again, I'm Control-Shift-Alt, or I'm actually just Alt-Shift dragging, since I have the arrow key up. If I didn't have the arrow tool up, I would have to hit Control to get it up, then Alt, and then Shift. keep it straight. But anyway, I wanted to show you the clear tool works even if you have multiple appearances. This is what it looks like if you have mixed appearances selected. You can't edit anything. So, but you can still clear. You can always clear, and you can always apply a new one. Another useful thing is outer glow. You'll be using stylize a lot. There's outer glow and inner glow, and they work a lot like drop shadow. You just have to look at them and see. So yeah, if you have corners, it'll do something. If not, so these are the most popular filters, or at least the ones I use the most. Path, offset path is great. It is a filter. Of course, you can get to it through object path, offset path, and outline object and stroke can be a pretty useful tool. It's kind of like expand. Now there's distort and transform, although I like to use envelope distort. These are kind of preset distorts. Anything with 3 dots after it means that it's going to bring up a dialog box. Keep that in mind. So if you just hit something like this, it'll instantly do it. It's preset. There's no changing anything. If you hit something like this, you're going to bring up a dialog box. Just so you know. So I also use 3D a lot. It's very handy. Under stylize, the only thing I probably don't use that often is feather. But when I'm working with shadows and blurs and I like to get a little bit of fuzziness, I'll use feather. And scribble. Scribble's kind of boring, but that's what that does. Once again, it had 3 dots, so it brings up a dialog box. Now, there's too much here to go into, but it's labeled pretty intuitively, and the presets are usually pretty good, and a lot of times you'll have a lot of settings. Childlike, if this were a bigger shape, there'd be a lot more angles. So work through the settings too, because they're presets, and they did the hard work for you. So you can get a lot of cool things with a lot of these. Glowing edges is not a big fan, but with simple objects, it's pretty cool. And there's one more thing to keep in mind with effects, is that if it brings up something like this, it's in this kind of format, then it's creating a rasterized effect. And what that means is you're losing your vector data. So you wouldn't be able to expand it. Like you can expand this into a stroke and then expand it into a fill. So it's still editable as a vector. Whereas if you do anything that involves sketch or anything that brings up like glowing edges, that dialog, I believe this one too, yeah, it creates all raster effects. In fact, these are all raster effects, but some of them don't take away the vectors. Some of them just add raster effects to the vectors. So go ahead and play with these, and we'll go into some more of them in depth in the next video. But for now, thank you for watching.